Hello everyone, and welcome to the Chinese race review. First of all, apologies for it being a couple of days later than normal. It's been a bit of a manic week for me, but there we go. Okay, so jumping straight in then. This time I'm going to be running down the race order rather than the last year's championship order, because I think it will make more sense from here on out. So, first of all then, Fernando Alonso, of course, our race winner, from third on the grid up to first place. Fantastic race from him, wasn't it? Absolutely sublime. I think the Ferrari was just the quicker car, wasn't it, particularly on race pace. I think quali yesterday, perhaps not. Their single lap pace seems to be a little bit lacking, but in race pace you just couldn't touch him, could you? Massa was a bit further down, but we'll get to him in a moment. So he was 10 seconds ahead of Kimi Raikkonen then in second place. So solid performance from him once again in the Lotus. Got a bit cut off by Perez, didn't he, halfway the race? Interesting issue there. Racing incident, that was what I agreed with what the steward said. It was a racing incident, but of course that damaged his front wing and meant he had to last for most of the race with damaged front wing. So a little bit of a compromise from him. Of course, still second place though, 10 seconds down on Alonso, so not bad at all from him. He was second on the grid, so he managed to maintain his position. I think he might have been much more of a threat for Alonso with that damaged front wing, but I still think Ferrari have just about at the moment got the pace on race pace, or at least on this particular track, so that's what I think. Third place then, Lewis Hamilton, of course, our pole sitter. A fantastic lap from him in quali yesterday. Mercedes were looking very good, weren't they? In fact, I actually expected Mercedes to win. I expected Hamilton really to win the race, but obviously that didn't quite turn out like that. Their race pace was lacking a bit, but quality place yesterday was amazing, wasn't it? And Rosberg looked like he could do it, but he made that little mistake in the final corner, and Hamilton just did the better overall lap. So as we've come to expect from Hamilton, really, just consistently amazing. He always pushes 110%, doesn't he? And I'm a Hamilton fan, so I'm biased, but it's a very good race from him indeed. So a little bit disappointing for him though to be down to third from pole, but there we go. Very close at the end though by Sebastian Vettel, wasn't it? The guy behind him in fourth place, incredibly close. To be honest, I thought Vettel was going to have that place. Might was catching him by, it was about 3 seconds a lap, wasn't it? Because of course Vettel pitted about, was it 6 or 7 laps before the end for set the soft tyres, and everyone thought that the tyres were going to go off. They thought they were going to have a couple of laps of being sort of 3-4 seconds a lap faster, and then they were going to go off and then be about similar place to the rest. But he didn't, did he? He just kept absolutely motoring on. It was an amazing comfort from Vettel there. Fantastic driving at the end, but to be honest, I would say he made a mistake on the last lap, didn't he, with the back marker? He just outbraked himself a bit, and that's what cost him. If he was right close behind Hamilton with DRS on the long back straight, he probably would have got him there. If not, he'd have definitely got him on the exit to the next corner. But 2 tenths they were apart as they crossed the line, so very, very close indeed. But fantastic form there from Hamilton, very consistent tonight, staying nice ahead. If he would have made one mistake over the last few corners, Vettel would have definitely had him. But so Vettel, yeah, 3 seconds a lap faster he was, so that means he had the fastest lap of the race by quite some margin. Red Bull, though, just lacking in race pace, weren't they? A lot of people think that's just because they got to heavily conserve their tyres compared to other cars. I think Ferrari in particular are quite light on their tyres, as well as Lotus. So Red Bull, even in quali pace, they didn't think they could get pole, did they? So they, of course, then opted to not do the quali lap and just stay back a bit. So what did they start? Started 9th, didn't he, Vettel? So interesting weekend really from Red Bull. It's fairly, from getting that 1-2 in Malaysia to going to not even doing quali 3 to 4th, and then of course one retirement with Webber. So it's a disappointing race from there really, but we'll see how that plays out in Bahrain in the next race this weekend. So 5th then, Jenson Button, quite a way back from Vettel he was though. He was 23 seconds behind by the looks of it. So a little gap there, but once again, pretty solid performance from him. He made a good race. I think he did a 2-stop, didn't he? Yes, he did in that race. So solid performance from him. 5th place, I think McLaren are definitely getting there now. They're slowly crawling their way towards the front. I think there will be a front runner, say by Brazil by the end of the season. I'm not sure when they'll get there, but I think by the end they'll definitely be a front runner. So there's definitely one to watch out for. I think particularly Mercedes and Lotus possibly might start to drop off the back of Red Bull and Ferrari. So then perhaps McLaren will be the first guys to overtake them, but we'll see on that one. So decent enough performance from Button there. Felipe Massa then 6th place, so 40 seconds back from his teammate, 5 back from Button. So it was not a great performance from him really, was it? I mean, from threatening to overtake Alonso in the first couple of laps, he was right behind him, and he was, you know, looking like he could even overtake him to 40 seconds back at the end. He said the harder tyres just didn't work for him. I think it was the medium tyres didn't work for him. So interesting there. But I think Massa's the type of driver that when he's at the front, he's very quick and very hard to catch. But when there's no chance of the win or even a podium, he just seems to lose motivation. Fall back, that happened as well in his championship. You know, when he nearly won the championship in 08 and 07, he just seems to fall off the pace when he's not in the lead. It's quite strange, but perhaps that's just to do with his mentality. But there we go. So fairly lackluster race from him there. 7th place then, Daniel Ricciardo. For me, definitely one of the drivers of the day. He was driver of the race. He was fantastic to get right up to 7th there. Well, we started in 7th actually, but to maintain that 7th in a car that nobody believes is even a midfield car. To be honest, everyone thinks it's the back of the midfield. They're under no illusions that they've got, you know, a pretty slow car this year, but to to get that sort of performance, it's pretty amazing, really. And someone mentioned to me on Twitter that Jenson Button was their driver of the day, but he said that he outperformed in a slower car. But I said, in which case, it's Daniel Ricciardo then, because of course he massively outperformed, didn't he, compared to his car. So absolutely solid performance from him. In fact, he nearly had Massa towards the end. He was gaining on him a couple more laps, and he might have even had Massa as well, up to 6th place. And that was his strongest race performance yet. It's his highest finishing position. So very strong job from him. I think we should look out for Daniel Ricciardo this year to see how much he outperforms Jean-Eric Vergne. Moving on then, 9th place, Romain Grosjean, 53.4 seconds back from the lead, so quite a way back. Started 6th, slipped down to 9th, so wasn't a great race from him. Once again, just lacking, you know, like Massa did, just lacking a lot from his teammate this year. Last year he was looking very close to Raikkonen indeed, looking like a match for him, but this year he seems to just be pushing sort of 90%, doesn't he, after all of his issues last year. He's come back this year and perhaps lost confidence, or perhaps he's, like I said, he's just pushing 90% to make sure he doesn't make any crashes and get that bad reputation back. But not a great performance from him, but still brought home 2 points for Lotus, so not too bad. 10th place then, Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber, so once again solid performance from him. He was running first at one point, wasn't he? So absolutely solid from him. He's impressed me as well over the last 2 races. Of course he didn't race in Melbourne, but solid performance from him once again. I think, to be honest, at the moment McLaren possibly made a mistake for here. Sergio Perez 11th, just behind Hülkenberg, and I think despite McLaren not having the best car, I think they've pretty much still got a better car than Sauber. And Hülkenberg's finishing ahead of Perez, so it's not great. I've been very impressed with Hülkenberg, but not so much with Perez. He's very much underwhelmed. Actually, 63 seconds back from the lead, and about 30 seconds or so back from his teammates. That's a lot. So he just doesn't seem to be anything special, does he, Perez? Really? Now he's in McLaren. I mean, of course, it's off the pace, so we'll have to wait and see. At the end of the season, we'll be able to give a proper judgment. But for now, he just seems to be off the pace, both quali and the race. He just nothing, is he? There's nothing I can see that's particularly special about him, to be honest. He hasn't crashed, but he did make a couple of mistakes in practice. That's one thing that you'll notice with the really top-line drivers, is they won't even really make mistakes in practice, particularly people like Hamilton and Button. Particularly last year, McLaren, very, very rare that McLaren ever had to repair their car after practice, because yeah, they were pushing, but not pushing hard enough, so they would never bin it or anything like that, really. Of course they did occasionally, that's inevitable, but very, very rare. But of course Perez binned it twice, didn't he, in this practice? Had no confidence, but as I said, it's not a great car, but very much not impressed. So I think he needs to up his game a lot, and I think actually McLaren, Martin Whitmarsh, I believe it was, actually said that, you know, Perez does need to up his game, so keep an eye on him, but he needs to prove a lot. So next up then, 12th place, Jean-Eric Vergne in the Toro Rosso as well, 72 seconds back from the lead. So once again, fairly underwhelmed really compared to his teammate. In fact, that's not a bad finish position, ahead of both the Williams and of course the newer teams. So not a bad race, but nothing special, was it? Particularly with how far back he's from his teammate. How far back was he? About 30 seconds, I believe. Yeah, about 30 seconds or so back from his teammate. So fairly average performance from him. I think he will possibly be out next year, either next year or the year after. I think both of them will at the moment, but I think if Ricciardo can impress this year, he might even get a Red Bull seat next year, or perhaps a reserve driver. But we'll see. But I think Jean-Eric Vergne particularly hasn't impressed massively. Valtteri Bottas then in the Williams, 93 seconds back from the lead. So Williams are just massively off the pace at the moment, aren't they? Very much underwhelmed with their performance this year. They look pretty solid in testing, pre-season testing, but just completely gone off the pace. Because I mean, from last year, beginning of last year, they were solid, weren't they? But yeah, beginning of this year, they're just really slow. But they've got a decent upgrade package, I believe, coming for Spain, Barcelona. I think that's 2 races time. So we'll see what happens then. But at the moment, they are definitely the worst of the backmarkers, really, aren't they? I mean, you can't call them a backmarker because that's what the new teams do, or the newer teams. But yeah, Bottas there held ahead of Maldonado, only 2 seconds apart. So clearly, that is pretty much the ultimate pace of the car. So interesting there. Next up, then, go to the newer teams. Marussia in the Jules Bianchi in the Marussia. 1 lap down, as were all the newer teams. So once again, finishing ahead of the newest teams. Solid performer, isn't he? Jules Bianchi's absolutely impressive. In fact, Ferrari have come out recently saying that they've been impressed with him because, of course, he's part of the Ferrari driver academy. So he's very much one to look out for. And I think we could even see him in a Ferrari if Massa or Alonso leaves. To be honest, he's very much impressed. He's been a fantastic little driver for them. So it'd be interesting if he can score a point for Marussia, or first point for the slower teams, really. Charles Pic then in the case for him, once again beating Max Chilton in the Marussia, so solid performance from him once again, reasonably impressive, but still not, you know, comparing him to Jules Bianchi at least, he's not that impressive. But Caterham were definitely off the pace. Once again, they got a big update coming for Spain in Barcelona a couple of races time, so we'll see how they get on from there. I think they might be able to jump Marussia if it's a decent enough upgrade. Max Chilton then, he's very much underwhelmed, really, isn't he? He's underwhelmed me anyway. 17th place then, still a lap down. So I mean, it's difficult comparing to someone like Jules Bianchi, who is you know, he has impressed everyone. He's been very impressive, but just I don't know. Much like Sergio Perez, just hasn't been impressing much at all. So it's a bit disappointing, really, what's been happening with him. But hopefully he can up his game. I would like to see another Brit in there, being British myself. But I don't think he'll hold him to his drive too long if he maintains his current performance level. Next up then, Guido van der Garde in the Caterham, last of the finishers then. Once again, he's been overshadowed a little bit by Charles Pic, but of course it is his rookie season, so you've got to expect that a little bit. But we'll see how he gets on, and once again fairly underwhelmed really, but it's always difficult to impress in the slower teams. So, the retired people then, Nico Rosberg, of course, once again a suspension issue. I believe he had an issue early in the weekend. They tried a new hydraulic hose that failed, and then this time I think they said it was a roll bar issue, so retiring there. So very disappointing from him. Luckily though, that was me being incredibly biased. Unluckily for him that he's been the one that's retiring, but Hamilton hasn't been retiring, of course, so I'm not sure why it's all going Rosberg's way, but there we go. I'm sure it'll balance out in the end, but fingers crossed Mercedes can sort out their reliability issues, because they've retired Rosberg 2 out of 3 races. That's not good. 66% retirements, only 33% reliability. It's not good at all, is it? Next up then, Mark Webber. Of course, quite high profile retirement there. Red Bull changed his front wing after he made contact with the Toro Rosso. Actually, I didn't mention that. Jean-Eric Vergne, of course, had the damage to the floor, so that's why he was slower. But Mark Webber, of course, made contact with the Toro Rosso. I agree with the penalty for Mark Webber, to be honest. It was a ridiculous incident. He sort of... I mean, it did look like that Jean-Eric Vergne left the door open for him, didn't it? But I think he was never going to be able to get up the inside there, was he? He braked, not expecting to overtake him, but then, of course, didn't realise he was going to brake so much later in the car in front. Decided to go for a half move, and it just didn't work. The door just closed on him. He was only halfway up the side of the car, if that. So, yeah, very disappointed there. He should have backed out of it and just got a better exit and overtaken him into the next corner. That would have been much easier, but half cooked, overtaking manoeuvre there. Cost him his front wing, of course, then he had to pit. Then the Red Bull guys managed to not fit one of his rear tyres. I think it was his right rear. Or was it his left rear, either one. And then he had to crawl very slowly back around to the pits, but then it fell off, didn't it, in the final chicane. The last corner before coming into the pits, it fell off and then he had to retire. So, once again, bad luck for Webber. He never seems to get the luck, does he? And Vettel seems to get it all. So, there we go with that one. Adrian Sutil then in the Force India. So, of course, he had the accident with the guy behind him, Esteban Gutierrez. Sutil managed to get back to the pits, but with that heavily damaged front wing, just wasn't repairable. And Gutierrez, of course, had a completely total car, damaged his wheel and stuff, with the tethers working nicely. So interesting there. Obviously, Gutierrez, just a rookie mistake, wasn't it? Just completely missed his braking point. I think didn't get DRS actually, and didn't really anticipate how much earlier he's going to have to brake with the extra speed from the DRS. And just ended up flying straight into the back of Sutil. So pretty big crash, but of course everyone was okay. But there we go. It's got to be expected a couple of times in your rookie season to make a couple of mistakes. No one can be as good as the best in their rookie season. That's about it, I think, from this race. As I said, apologies for it being a little bit late and also a bit long. We've gone over 13 minutes, so apologies for that. We've got another 2 or 3 videos coming this week, so it should be an action-packed week from now on. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.